Perot is a professor of music and director of orchestras at the University of Minnesota, Duluth. For those of you who need a geography lesson, Duluth is in northern Minnesota. It's on Lake Superior. It's a big river port. And I suspect when you go home on Saturday, there's going to be snow.
There's going to be a big, we are in a big blizzard.
Okay, so it's one of the northernmost cities in the continental United States. Rudy has been an artist in residence this week with the music department. He arrived Monday, and as I said, he goes home Saturday. He's been working with music students and the Southern Symphony Orchestra. He gave a presentation yesterday on Caribbean composers, and today's talk is on voodoo, whether voodoo is a cult or a religion. And then tomorrow night, he is serving as a guest conductor for a concert titled Caribbean Adventures at the Central Christian Academy, or Central Christian Church in downtown Joplin. The address is 410 South Virginia Avenue. Part of it is on Main Street. It's the old historic Fox Theater, which has been around since the 1930s. It's quite a venue if you've never been in there. It's a spectacular place to have a concert. Rudy was born in Haiti. He earned his master's degree in violin performance from Temple University in Philadelphia. He has guest conducted numerous ensembles in Trinidad, Cuba, Panama, France, Sweden, Russia, Haiti, Brazil, Italy, and Turkey. He's also been a Fulbright scholar and conducted music teacher training in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think you're in for a treat today with this presentation on voodoo. So without further ado, Rudy Perot.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And apologize again, apologies for all the technical difficulties, and we'll jump right in.
Rudy, is your mic?
Oh, jump right in with my mic on. Are we good? Yes. All right. Today we'll begin to lift the veil on some of the mysteries associated with Vodou. Let me begin by saying that this is a topic that is enormous and complex to cover. Full stop. Haitian Vodou is an old tradition, so the lack of that one go-to manuscript for answers has spurred confusion, misconceptions, contradictions, and a whole lot of conspiracy theories. And this is a subject that I have been interested in for a very, very long time, and trying to decipher facts from fiction. And I still find myself at times refuting, questioning, reviewing something that years or even months earlier I thought was fait accompli, or at the very least, I was quite confident with the findings. So this is my disclaimer. This is Vodou as I know it today. I will do my very best to give you an accurate and complete picture as I can. Oh, this thing is not working here. So I'll do that. More technical difficulties. Not sure why the pointer is jamming. There we go.
Oh, that's the. Oh, okay. Is this the one we were using before?
No, this is.
Because it's a Logitech receiver.
Yeah. Oh boy. Let's see. We'll just do this. All right. I'll give you I do my best to give you as accurate and complete a picture as I can. And of course, if that topic is of interest to you, I urge you to research in reputable sites. But beware, there are some pretty weird stuff out there. So I wouldn't take everything that you see on the internet as the Bible. What is Vodou and where does it come from? The name itself comes from the Fon language, which is the region in West Africa, the Dahomey region. The word is a bit more complex than the spirit that often they translate it as. And if we break it down, vo, the prefix means inner energy, introspection. And the suffix do refers to the unknown, the great beyond. Vodou cult or religion. Not sure where you stand on that, but let's start with a definition of both of those terms. The Oxford Dictionary describes religion as the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a person, God or gods. That to me seems fairly vague and quite open and does not offer much specificity to put to rest, our current debate. Let's turn to the definition of a cult. The same dictionary defines cult as a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object, or a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. Another definition of cult is the misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. If we think of more recent news reports on cults, the Branch Davidians, the Jonestown, the Heaven's Gate, they all fit the profile of excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. The word cult didn't used to be such a pejorative word, actually. But like many other words in our dictionary, once a negative component, once a negative meaning has been tagged to it, it becomes impossible to shake it. So let's agree for now that Vodou, no, actually not Vodou, cult, the way anytime that we use the word cult, it means to demean, it's meant to demean a movement or religion that falls outside of the mainstream or accepted trends. In the earlier definition of cult, and putting aside the size of the group, and how do we decide what should be labeled strange or sinister? Why is one God, big G or little g, more acceptable than the other? Although there may be one supreme being, the God of all gods, in the three major religions, there often are a multitude of important figures that serve as go-between. Those are just the spiritual beings. Then there are the Sanse, who used to be humans, then have transcended the corporal world and ascended to the spiritual level through some form of canonization. In the physical world, all of those religions have emissaries, religious leaders, high priests that are the earthly representatives of the supreme being. The hierarchy in the Catholic Church, unchanged for the last millennia, consists of the Pope at the top, followed by cardinals, archbishops, bishop, priests, and a few other quaint titles sprinkled in between, like patriarch and primates. Never heard of those before, until I did that research. Why do I bring all of this up? On the one hand, to establish that most, if not all, religions have strict rules and hierarchies that they follow. And on the other, to show that they also subscribe to the notion that there is a mysterious world, a higher power supported by other divine spirits that guide, dictate, or control aspects of our lives. What is Vodou? What we actually know about Vodou and what Vodou is are on two very different planets. We will cover how Vodou has been and continues to be perceived today later in this talk. For now, let's remove that first layer. Vodou, as I said earlier, is an oral tradition that traces back its roots back to traditional West Africa, religion and culture in West Africa. Like many self-proclaimed religions, practitioners of Vodou believe in doing no harm. The primary goal is to serve the Loa, worship them, and present offerings to them in exchange for protection, good health, fertility, good fortune, or blessings. The mystère, the mysterious of Vodou, the ancestral knowledge, is passed on from one generation to another through initiation, known as kanzo. Unlike the Roman Catholic religion, there is no one single spokesperson, no one single leader, no pope of Vodou. There are different levels in the hierarchy that priests or priestesses can be elevated to, but there is no final stepping stone. There is no pope. The closest Vodou has come to a pope is with Dr. Max Beauvoir, who was elected as supreme leader of Vodou, a position that was newly created for him. And since his passing, no one has served in that capacity. Otherwise, the different la cour, meaning courtyard really, the société, societies, communities, shrines or temples will have caucuses, meetings, some sort of conclave, where all temples, where all the priests, the high priestess, they will meet to share their concerns, resolve issues that may arise, or share resources in celebration or loi or important dates in the Voodoo calendar. Similar to the Catholic Church, there is one supreme being. In Vodou, that supreme being is the Grand Maître, and it can only be reached through the loi, intermediaries, other divinities. Professor Ojebode of the West African traditional religion reminds us that there also is a dark side to Vodou. That, in his words, and I quote, "Magic and religion are not mutually exclusive." It continues that there are sorcerers who, and I quote again, are employed to inflict misfortunes, accidents, sudden death, poverty, barrenness, and other human miseries. Life and property can be cursed. Close quote. Now, for a little refresher history lesson. After the arrival of Christopher Columbus in Haiti, December 6, 1492, I refuse to use the word discovery, since you can see that the island was already occupied and thriving. Columbus renamed the island Hispaniola, Little Spain, and it established it as an outpost for future exploration into the Americas. A mere 25 years later, one single generation later, the indigenous Taino population, they numbered in the hundreds of thousands at first. They began to dwindle to the point that there weren't enough of them to do the sugar mills or the heavy lifting of mining the gold. So they brought in the slaves to replace them. We all know this part of history. What you probably weren't aware of is that the first 15,000 African slaves were introduced in the Caribbean colonies in 1517, not 1617, but 1517, a 400+ years before the US would see its first shipment of slaves. An important note here, the slaves that were captured came from different tribes, each with their own dialects and religious rituals. Once on the island of Hispaniola, families and those that spoke the same language were separated and mixed with other tribes, thus guaranteeing that they would not be able to communicate and collaborate on any sort of insurrection. By the 1660s, some 150 years after the first slaves set foot in Hispaniola, the French invaded the western part of the island, and the Spaniards were forced to give it up and consolidate their efforts on the eastern side. The French renamed their section Saint-Domingue, which is now modern-day Haiti. They ramped up sugarcane and coffee production. Saint-Domingue was supplying nearly 60% of the coffee imported by France and England, and becoming the pearl of the Antilles, the jewel of the Antilles. Initially, Saint-Domingue slaves numbered around 4,000. For 250 or so years, the slave trade flourished, enriching people on both sides of the Atlantic. By 1787, there were nearly 500,000 slaves on the island, controlled by a white population of less than 30,000. You can see the problem here. Religion would further tip the scale towards freedom. Now, I mentioned earlier that slaves were captured from various tribes, regions, and countries from the west coast of Africa, Gulf of Guinea. and simply thrown together. This arrangement worked for decades, more than a century in fact. As they learned to live and work side by side, a new language emerged as a mix of African dialects, the French that they were learning from their masters, and a dash of Spanish and Portuguese, and even English. Haitian Creole was forced out of resilience and necessity. In compliance with the Code Noir, the Black Code, and I'll tell you a little bit later about the Code Noir, and also as part of their, shall we say, onboarding, slaves were given statuettes and other symbols of Catholicism, so they could properly worship across statues of the Virgin Mary, Saint Joseph, Saint Peter, Moses, and the likes. On Sunday, as instructed by the masters, they would put on whatever Sunday best they could muster and go to Mass. However, we must remember their core doctrines, the rituals, the connections to their ancestors, their collective knowledge of homeopathic and natural remedies had also made the long, harsh transatlantic journey. Now, for the Code Noir, it was a decree passed by Louis XVI defining the condition of slavery in the French colonial empire. One of these edicts forbade slaves to publicly practice any other religion but the one Roman Catholic and Apostolic faith. The reality is, this edict proved harder to implement in the colonies, and most of the plantation owners became quite lax about it. Besides, much of the Bible's teachings went in direct contradiction with slavery and the notion of people as property. As a result, the slaves continued to worship their ancestral religion. New leaders emerged to guide them through the spiritual journey. Artifacts from the Catholic faith were adopted and bestowed new roles. Thus was born the syncretism of Vodou. So when you see a statue, a figurine of the Virgin Mary on the Voodoo altar, it no longer represents the Virgin Mary, but it is now Loi Erzuli, goddess of love and beauty. Before we get too deep into the weeds here and complexities of Voodoo, let's learn some more important terms. Bon Dieu. This is the parallel to God, the Almighty. You will often hear the expression, Bon Dieu bon, God is good. Si bon Dieu voulait, God willing. In ceremonies, you may even hear praises to the Grand Maître, the great master. The loi, meaning laws in French. They are the intermediaries between the physical world and the Grand Maître. They govern all visible manifestations of life forms such as plants, animals, and humans. It is a symbiotic relationship. The practitioners, they provide food and some of the items that appeal to the law, and in exchange for their assistance, the law would furnish prosperity, good health, and all of us. These spirits, they can become visible in the form of possession. They mount, possess, basically hijack the body of a believer during a ceremony so that they can become visible and interact with the community. Each loi has its own veve, which is the drawing on the ground for each of the lois. They are the deities that most practitioners of Vodou will serve. They are also referred to as mystère, mystery, angels, saints, or invisible, invisible. The loi can become protectors, counselors, or offer help if you serve them well. They are the go-between humans and the Grand Maître. Hungan, this is the male Voodoo priest. Mambo, the female Voodoo priest. Onfor, peristyle. Those are actually two different things. The Onfor is the actual Voodoo temple, whereas the peristyle is the covered area, the covered dance area of the Voodoo temple. Sometimes they refer to it as tonnelle. Potomitan, the sacred center post and functional center of a home fort, which is the temple, by which the Loa are said to arrive from Guinea. Guinea is the ancestral land. Prière Guinée. This is the African prayers that opens a Voodoo service. Règlement, the strict rules and laws that guide services and ceremonies. Veve, I mentioned earlier, each Loa has its own, or group of Loas, sometimes families of Loa, have their own branding, a design specific to each. We will see a little later. That design is drawn with white powder or corn flour on the ground of the temple before the ceremony. Aibobo, this is the equivalent to amen. There are two more terms that you may hear about when researching Voodoo, Boko and Zombie. Neither of those terms are actually part of the regular Voodoo ceremony. The Boko is the high priest who uses his or her knowledge of mystère, the mysterious, of certain naturally occurring phenomena or psychological suggestive work powers to inflict harm on others, oftentimes for a fee. The word zombie comes from the Congo, meaning soul. For the moment, let's put a pin on that, no pun intended, because this is a much larger discussion and an important part of how Voodoo has been painted. We'll come back to this, I promise. Other less important terms are son. It is the rattle used in certain ceremonies, a small good wrapped in bead and snake bones and attached to a bell. Baka, little demons who wreak havoc in the world. Kids who habitually misbehave are often referred to as little baka. And there are the different nations, the families of Loas. There's a Nago, Rada, Congo, Igbo, Dahomey, Mending, and Petro, all of those from the western area of Africa. Each one of those gods, they need very different treatment and service. They have very specific rituals, songs, and even musical rhythmic patterns that should never be mixed. And finally, we have the Gede. This is a family of Loa that deal with death and fertility. A typical fête Gede is full of driving rhythms, lots of drums, dancing, spicy food, drinking clairin, which is some kind of moonshine with rum. I would put them in the same boat as the Roman god Bacchus, god of good and fun and fertility. But there are some Gedes you don't want to mess with. Gede criminel, for example, is one of those you don't want to mess with him. Fête Gede is celebrated on All Souls Day, November 2nd, coming up very soon. Another intriguing coincidence with another pagan celebration beginning October 31st and ending November 2nd, Halloween. All right, so by now, you've heard that the slaves in Saint-Domingue came up with their own language, Creole. When new slaves arrived, they would quickly be taught that new language. Similarly, they would also be indoctrinated into the quickly evolving religion. You've heard me talk about Loa, Leslie, Gede Criminel, many of those. Many of the figuring reserved for the Catholic faith had successfully been secretized. I'm going to unpack this a little bit more. As a sample, we will cover just a few of the more popular Loa in Haiti, the Rada, Petro, and the Gede Loa. We should touch on the Gede Loa. And maybe spend a little time on the Nago Loa. I will go fairly quick on this. We started late. We got to push on. So buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So let's go. Here are some of the groupings, the major players within these groups. There are the Radalois. They are the older, wiser gods.
Rudy, can you click on OK there?
No, it's not okay.
Thank you.
So the Radalois, they are the older, wiser, and not as petulant. Sometimes they call the cool gods, not cool, but cool gods in terms of temperament. Obviously, in contrast to the hot gods. They should be really called the lukewarm gods, the lukewarm, because they still have a temper and should not be disrespected. The Loa from the Rada nation are often associated with water. They include Legba. Legba is often portrayed as an old man with a cane, wearing a straw hat and smoking a pipe or drinking water. He is the great communicator and the god of knowledge, promoting communication, speech, and understanding. Legba is the god of the crossroad. After the Prière Guinéen, remember Prière Guinéen? That's the first thing when you, from the ancestral land, before the ceremony starts. After the Prière Guinéen, each and every ceremony must begin with Legba, asking for permission to open the gates and let you communicate with the other gods, and give them permission to leave their celestial residence and come to help you on earth. Legba may accept or deny your request. There is no appealing his decision. You simply have to try another time. Legba is associated with St. Peter, keeper of the pearly gates, but also with St. Lazarus and St. Anthony. And so that's what we mean by the syncretization of Vodou there. So you'll have a saint, and that saint now has become a different person in the Voodoo tradition. And also you will see that's the Veve. And as well, that's why for the lecture, I needed to put Legba to allow me to go through this. Next, we've got Loco, Papa Loco, one of the royal ancestors. Considered to be the guardian of the temple, Papa Loco is known for his sense of justice. Loco is believed to be the first Hungang, the high priest conducting ceremonies. He is the patron of healing herbs and plants, and he's syncretized with Saint Joseph, father of Jesus. Aizan. While Loco is regarded as the first Hungang, she is the first Mambo, the first high priestess. Her name comes from the Fon language meaning sacred earth or sacred land. Aizan is the law of the marketplace of commerce. She is syncretized with Saint Clare of Assisi. Some Fon tribes speak of a great serpent named Da, who existed before the world was created. Dambala is the most important of the laws. He was the first to be created by the Gomet, and then he in turn created everything after that. Dambala is often portrayed as a great white serpent, known for his love of purity and cleanliness. He is syncretized with St. Patrick and Moses. Next is Unifreda. She is the spirit of love, beauty, refinement, dancing, luxury, jewelry, flowers. Erzuli is very flirtatious and loves man, and she will reward those she finds very handsome or who dance very well. Though she is a very jealous spirit, it is believed that Erzuli is married to 3 Loa, Met Agwe, who we'll see next, Oguferai, which we'll cover a little later, and Dambala, which we just covered. Erzuli's favorite colors are white and baby pink. She is syncretized with the Mater Dolorosa. Agwe and La Sirene. They are portrayed as the ruler of the ocean and all that reside in it. Agwe often pictures as a naval captain, and La Sirene as the mermaid, guiding or luring sailors. Though Agwe is in the cool spirit group, his wrath can be terrifying. think of a hurricane or tsunami while at sea. He is syncretized with Saint Ulrich, often seen holding a fish. His colors blue, green, and sometimes sea green and brown. Marasa, they are the divine twins of Vodou, and yet their number is 3. They are male and female, and both male and both female. I'll give you a minute to wrap your brain around this. They are children, but are some of the oldest spirits. Again, another contradiction. They are the champions of love, truth, and justice. They are syncretized with Saints Cosmas and Damien. Their favorite color is yellow. There are many other more Radha spirits, but we've got to press on. The Pétrolois, they are generally considered the hot gods, the more fiery, occasionally aggressive and warlike Loa. They were called upon during the Battle of the Independence. Their traditional colors red, sometimes mixed in with other colors. They include Azuli Danto. She is the older sister of the more even-keeled Azuli Freda. Some would say that they are 2 sides of the same goddess. Allegedly, she was one of the Loas summoned during the slave revolt of 1791, which we will cover in a minute. By some accounts, the insurrection began with a big feast in honor of Azuli Danto. For that, in Haiti, she is the most important of the Pétrolois. Marinette. Marinette is another Loa associated with the Haitian Revolution. Practitioners of Voodoo will tell you that you simply do not summon Marinette unless you are looking for some serious muscle. Marinette is the goddess of power and violence. In the Pétro tradition, she is also known as Marinette Brachèche, which is Marinette with the dry arms, or Marinette Pièchèche, Marinette with the dry feet, suggesting that she's a skeleton. She is seen as one who freed her people from slavery. Her Catholic counterpart is the Anima Sola, forsaken soul, who can either free you from bondage or drag you to the underworld. Her colors are black and deep blood red. Metcalfou, master of the crossroads. He's the Petro counterpart to Papa Legba. Similarly, in the Petro world, he is the god of the crossroads and may grant you access or not to the other gods. He's often portrayed as a young man or as a demon. He is syncretized with Satan, which begs the question if his gate is the one that leads to the underworld. Supposedly, he does allow the crossing of bad luck, destruction, misfortune, and injustice. He's believed to love rum and adds it even to his gunpowder. The Gédé Lois. The Gédé, they are the spirits of the unclaimed, the unremembered dead. The Gédé nation is ruled by the Baron family, Baron Lacroix, Baron Samedi, Baron Cimetière, and the most dangerous of them all, Baron Criminel. Also part of the Gédé nation is Maman Brigitte. The Gédé are loud, they are rude, foul-mouthed, reckless, sexual, they love rum. They are a lot of fun, allegedly, but very dangerous. They are a very bad influence. They are the friend who are con men who will talk you into doing stupid things that you normally would not do. They are the bon vivant Loa. Their traditional colors are black and purple. They are known for the banda, the dance they perform that is very explicit, mimicking sexual intercourse. The Gédé costumes are the most popular costume during Carnival in Haiti. Those dressed up as Gédé will usually follow the Raga band. They're carrying a casket, dancing, gyrating, gesticulating in very obscene manner. Baron Samedi, also known as Papa Guédé, he's the father figure of the Guédé family. He is usually dressed, seen with a top hat, black tails, sporting some dark glasses, but with cotton plugs in his nose because he's a corpse getting ready for burial. He stands at the crossroads where sex and death meet. He's lewd, vulgar, and obscene. He rules the cemetery, and no one can die until he has given permission to dig the grave. Baron Samedi's colors are black, purple, and white, and he's syncretized with Saint Martin de Porres. Maman Brigitte, she is married to Baron Samedi. Unlike most Loire, who originated from Africa, the myth of Maman Brigitte originates from Ireland. She takes care of the dead that have been forgotten by the families and tries to send a message to the living relatives of those dead so that they could remember them. Her colors are purple, black, and green. She is symbolized usually by a black rooster and syncretized with Saint Bridget. Baron Lacroix, Baron of the Cross. Like his father figure, he is usually seen wearing black tailcoat. He's funny, suave, sophisticated, cultured, debonair. He will remind you of all the earthly delights and will take you on the most pleasurable ride if you will allow. He's syncretized with Saint Expeditius. Baron Criminel. He is the most feared of all the Loire in Haiti. Supposedly, he is the first murderer who was sent to death. He is a cannibal and keeps the souls he has stolen in a sack that he carries with him. Those who summon Baron Criminel and are possessed by him shout obscenities to other congregants. They threaten to kill. He, too, wears a black tailcoat, top hat, cane, smokes a cigar, and loves drinking alcohol. The only way to appease him is through sacrifices. Offerings to Baron Criminel are quite gruesome, and I will spare you the gory details. He is believed to be the dark side of Baron Samedi. They are both syncretized by Saint Martin de Porres. The Nago Nation, dominated by the Ogun family of Loire. They are the patron of blacksmiths and are revered for their fighting spirit. The most important in the family is Ogun Ferai, often portrayed as an invincible warrior armed with his trusty knife or machete. He is the god of war. Ogun Ferai enjoys the company of women and also likes alcohol. Ogun Ferai is syncretized with St. James the Greaters, and other members of the Ogun family are Ogun Badagri, Ogun Balenjo, Ogun Batala, and Ogun Jerouge. All right, so I think probably, not covered on this will be the Congo family of Loire, Dahomey, Igbo, Manding. So, moving on. In the early days, there were roughly 4,000 or so slaves in Saint-Domingue, as I told you earlier. As the demand for a workforce increased, the population quickly ballooned to more than 500,000 slaves by the 1790s. Half of the 1 million slaves of the Caribbean were in Saint-Domingue. Slaves were outnumbering the plantation owners by a factor of 12 to 1. To make matters worse, a large number of slaves were successfully running away and hiding in the mountains. The runaway slaves were later known as the Maroons. The first signs that the social fabric of Saint-Domingue was falling apart, had started back in the 1750s. The first attempt by the Maroons was under the leadership of Francois Macandal, a charismatic Haitian Voodoo priest who arrived in Saint-Domingue from West Africa when he was just 12 years old. Macandal drew on his religion to inspire the slave to fight, establishing a secret collaboration between the plantation slaves and the Maroons. Under the cover of night, Vodou ceremonies were often used as an opportunity to socially gather, spread information, organize, free more slaves, and collect provisions for the Maroons. Macandal was eventually captured in 1758 and was burned at the stake on the public square as a powerful message to the other Maroons. Still, the runaway slaves continued their raids and attacked for freedom and independence under their new names, the Macandals. There is one other name that associated with Vodou and the independence of Haiti specifically that you will undoubtedly stumble upon, Boukman. He is remembered for forging an alliance between all of the different tribes. He was sent first to Jamaica. He was sold by the French planter when Boukman was caught teaching other slaves how to read. In Jamaica, he was named the Book Man. That nickname stuck. The Dirty Book Man. His true name, Dirty Book Man, and that stuck too. After arriving in Haiti, he became a home guard, a voodoo priest. And on about the 14th of August, 1791, Boukman was the high priest for the last of many ceremonies that were conducted to unite the slaves towards a common goal, independence and freedom from slavery. At the ceremony, an oath was taken to become free or die trying. It was sealed by drinking the blood of a pig sacrificed for the occasion. That ceremony would come to be known as the Bois Caïman ceremony. Without Vodou, without that indisputable blind belief that their gods were on their side and will lead their arms, the revolution and its eventual success might not have been possible. So it is fair to say that the Haitian Revolution began with this ceremony, the Bois Caïman ceremony. After independence from France was won, some of the new Haitian leaders thought it wise to pull away from Vodou and adopt Christianity as the religion of the land. A move they thought would bring them acceptance from other free nations of the West and secure the legitimacy that they craved for their new republic. They had a few conditions, however. They insisted on a Haitian clergy and the right to appoint bishops. As you can imagine, the quasi-ultimatum was summarily rebuked by the Catholic Church, and thus began the chasm between Rome and Haiti. The new elite class, some of them educated in France, they were fully in favor of keeping Vodou and its practitioners in the shadows. The Catholic Church could not be more amenable. Vodou was synonymous with black magic, animal sacrifice, sorcery, and witchcraft. It needed to be destroyed, exorcised from the country. Sidestepping the religion that had sustained a large slave population for centuries did not sit well with the larger poor mass and may not have been a wise choice, as that too began the rift between the classes. In medieval times, Christianity had a checkered record of brutally suppressing, killing, demonizing other religions that posed a threat. I would say this is religious bullying. With the same zeal, they went after Vodou priests, practitioners. In the late 1800s and all through the early part of the 20th century, forts, the Voodoo temples, the Voodoo shrines, and ritual paraphernalia were destroyed and burnt, all with the blessing of the local clergy. Religion can be a dangerous addiction. When all seems lost, men of the cloth will tell you to turn to your God. In the hands of a very charismatic leader, it seems like nothing is impossible. God will provide because God is good. Yahweh is great. Allah Akbar. Bon Dieu bon. So I go back to my earlier question. Why is one God more important than another? Which in turn make one religion more important than another. This we must resolve to answer the central question: is voodoo a cult or a religion? Thing is, early Christianity was considered just as much a cult by the Jews and Romans. Islam was equally labeled a cult by medieval Christians, and many Protestant groups were stigmatized by other Christians. Humans of all convictions are quick to judge or demonize others purely because they're different, instead of taking the time to learn before making a rash judgment. We see this play out today in real time. Some will say that, well, I just admitted that in Vodou there is black magic, witchcraft, cannibalism, and. There are more similarities between other accepted religions and Vodou. Well, let's compare the two, Vodou and the Catholic religion. Catholics have a supreme being, a God, creator of all things. Vodou practitioners have a higher spirit, creator of all things. Catholics have saints and patron saints. Vodou has roi and patron roi. There are specific rituals to observe during a church service. There are equally specific rituals to observe during a ceremony. The Catholic Church has a hierarchy and specific set of rules to guide its followers. Vodou has a hierarchy and specific set of rules to guide its practitioners. Catholics have in its ranks people who speak in tongues. Vodou also has people who speak in the language of the ancestors. Catholics speak of miracles. Vodouism speak of miracles. Catholics have their Satan and Lucifer. Vodou has Maître Carrefour and Baron Criminel. I could go down the list between those two religions and find exact similarities. From the outside, looking in and seeing all of the rituals inherent to a Catholic service, their high degree of order, the robes, their habits, their adherence to tradition, the incense, the ringing of the bell, their ritual kneeling, standing and crossing yourself at prescribed moments, the formality of it all, the authority of the clergy, their and our ability to speak directly for and with God, the blessing of the congregation, the power of the communal prayer, the prescribed hymns for every service, and the most troublesome of them all, communion. Imagine serving the body and the blood of Christ to their congregants. Yes, it's symbolic. For an outsider looking in, this may raise some serious red flags, yet those are accepted rituals. What about all that we've learned, well, we've come to learn and know about Vodou? Well, enter social media in Hollywood. Okay, it's not social media as we know it today, but soon after the Bois Caïman ceremony, for example, the French author Antoine Dalma wrote, and I quote, "A black pig surrounded by the slaves believed to have magical powers, each carrying the most bizarre offering, was offered as a sacrifice to the all-powerful spirit, to the religious community in which the Negroes slit its throat, the greed with which they have believed to have marked themselves on their forehead with its blood, and to the importance that they attached to owning some of its bristles, which they believed would make them invincible." End quote. We have such vivid imagery, one could almost picture Mr. Dalmas in the corner of the home floor, intently watching, notepad in hand, recording this momentous event. He did not. Antoine Dalma never attended that meeting. His chapter on the Bois Caïman ceremony was the product of eyewitness accounts embellished by a much too vivid imagination. Mr. Dalma is the author of the book History of the Saint-Domingue Revolution, published in 1814, one of the pivotal books that would set the tone for how the Haitian Revolution and Vodou were viewed for generations. It was critical to demonize the slaves and belittle their religion as much as possible to justify the slaughter of all of those renegade slaves or delegitimize their independence. Surely a band of ill-equipped slaves could not possibly beat the mighty army of Napoleon and gain their independence. In his book, Avengers of the New World, Laurent Dubois explained that, I quote, one writer admitted that he had never actually seen a Vodou ritual, but he nevertheless described in vivid detail, complete with practitioners throwing themselves on the victims, tearing them apart with their teeth, and avidly sucking the blood that boils from their veins. Each day, he wrote, 40 Haitians were eaten, and almost every citizen of the country had tasted human flesh, end quote. The person who was responsible for this outlandish account was none other than Sir Spencer Buckingham St. John, who was the British consul to Haiti in the mid-1880s. In his book, Haiti or the Black Republic, Sir Spencer reported on the aforementioned ritual murders and cannibalism during voodoo ceremonies and other absurd exaggerations. Again, with absolutely no evidence to support his claim. As the charge d'affaires from the British Empire to Haiti, his words carried a lot of weight. The story was picked up by the newspaper and propagated around the world. There are more of those examples, but as you can see, there was a concerted effort to delegitimize Haiti's independence. One of the low-hanging fruits was dismissing, vulgarizing, demonizing this religion that allowed this inexperienced group of soldiers, at best an ad hoc militia, to defeat one of the best trained, best equipped, most disciplined armies, led by the best generals of Europe. There must be something else that explains this impossibility. So they must have had some mysterious help. They were not trained in the art of warfare. They must have made a pact with the devil. They must have, you see where this is going? Earlier, I asked you to put a pin on zombies again, no pun intended. Let us unpack this a bit. What they show you on TV series or the big screen have absolutely nothing to do with the zombies in the voodoo religion. The arm-flailing, slow-walking, flesh-eating creature, the undead, is just the figment of somebody's way too active imagination. In addition, many fervent believers in Vodou will tell you that they are regular people brought back from the dead and controlled through magical means by Vodou priests called Baka. Okay, all right, let's unpack this. I couldn't find much research categorically, scientifically confirming or denying the existence of zombies, nor the veracity of zombie encounters. The most cited research in that field is that of Dr. Wade Davis's book, Passage of Darkness, the Ethnobiology of the Haitian Zombie. He wrote in the late 1980s. According to Dr. Davis's book, a cocktail of easily accessible natural drugs could put someone in a stasis, a sort of limbo between the living and the dead. The cocktail of drugs concocted by the Bokor contains some potent neurotoxin, including tetrodotoxin. Used in powder form, they affect cognitive functions and dramatically slow a person's heart rate. Those drugs have a paralyzing effect to the point that the individual may even appear dead. Allegedly, the Bokor would come back soon after the person had been buried to exhume and bring them back to life with an antidote. The zombie has no control of its movement and is completely devoid of thinking for himself. Kind of brain dead, but still physically functional, allegedly. Remember, no veracity Can't confirm any of this. No one has seen one. I read somewhere that Haitians are not afraid of zombies. They are more scared of becoming one. My instinct tells me that turning someone into a zombie is more of a threat than anything, even though, for all I know, it might be an empty threat. Similar to those used to keep kids in line with fairy tales or creepy monsters. In Vodou, all things Bokor and zombie belongs to secret societies. They live in the fringes of society. The supposed dark world where most Voodoo practitioners have little or no interest in. They have no place in the daily rituals or worship of the Loa. I submit to you that zombieism, if there is such a word, is more of a metaphor for doing something in a robotic fashion. We experience zombiness, again, another one that I'm making up, every day in our lives. The drive to and from work, the daily mindless routines, the factory workers who perform the same task over and over, the bus driver who drives the same route all day, every day, all of those tasks that we do without thinking. How many times have we heard the expression, well, don't stand there like a zombie? What does that look like? Again, those are mindless tasks that we do without thinking. Whereas the church was motivated by power, more interested in preserving its clout, its stronghold on space, in Hollywood and other media outlets, this attempt to misrepresent zombies and by association Vodou is driven by one thing and one thing only. That's your cue. Money. Those who traffic in these zombie movies or books have absolutely no interest in setting the record straight or trying to educate. Quite the contrary. They feed on our curiosity or fascination with the paranormal, the mysterious world, the unknown. As long as there is a market, and there is, for that kind of a movie or book, they will continue to portray Vodou as this sort of spectacle. The more sensationalized, the better. They will continue to push the envelope on zombies, give them superhuman powers, make them invincible, and many more attributes that simply defy common sense. But that's not the point. The entertainment value of perpetuating this image of zombies supersedes any moral or ethical responsibility towards the truth. Money is a very good motivator. Until there is another incentive not to spew out all of this nonsense, they will continue to write those books and make those movies with complete disregard for how it is affecting an entire population or religious group. One of the major offshoots of Vodou was in the United States. With the proximity to the island and following the uprising, many plantation owners left with their slaves and settled in Louisiana. There, it is named Voodoo, V-O-O-D-O-O. Today, Voodoo in Louisiana is a major attraction. Tourists in New Orleans especially visit those voodoo shops out of curiosity and buy paraphernalia and other genuine artifacts as souvenirs for fun, for art, for decoration. One of the most intriguing is the voodoo doll. We've all heard about the voodoo doll, that you stick a pin into to hurt someone else clear across the city or the nation. This phenomenon was not part of Haitian voodoo. And I will explain to you why I said was not. Folk magic in Europe had a similar doll called puppets. It was the same concept. You stick a pin into a doll with the likeness of the person you want to hurt, and miles away somebody falls dead. There too, there is no scientific documentation that this actually works. I'm not ready to close the book completely on this, not quite yet. Are there dark forces out in the world floating around wanting to pounce on an opportunity to do harm? Absolutely. Evil exists. I'm not sure what form it takes, but I believe that evil exists. Good cannot exist without evil. Christ without the Antichrist. Left, right, north, south, up, down, matter, antimatter. Still, I have a healthy dose of skepticism that normal humans can simply stick a pin on a doll and hurt someone else. Voodoo dolls were introduced into the New Orleans religion for entertainment value, preying and cashing in on our gullibility. The word voodoo has taken on a life of its own. Think of Bush 43 making fun of Ronald Reagan's voodoo economics, and the countless bands doing voodoo, songs, music, video games, memes, TikToks, and other words associated with voodoo that are mojo, juju. As long as we let them, they will continue to capitalize on our superstition and obsession with the paranormal. I said earlier that voodoo dolls were not part of Haitian voodoo, Haitian Vodou. In the heyday of tourism, beginning after 1914 and the American occupation of Haiti, and following the New Orleans example, Haitians had opened up their peristyle, their temple, their shrines, and ceremonies to foreigners, tourists. Again, money. This was not the real stuff. This was a show. They held cultural shows, spectacles, fake trances, animal sacrifice. They were quite aware that there was a preconceived idea in the US of what Vodou was supposed to be. So they fanned the flame for some more profit. You could easily get your hands on voodoo dolls, complete with pins, sticks, magic potions, ceremonial drums, Veve drawing classes, or Voodoo 101 clinics, all you ever needed to know about Voodoo. All for the almighty money, dollar. The Clinton, yes, those Clintons, they were treated to a ceremony during their honeymoon in Haiti. Hillary Clinton writes it all in a book called Choices. So no, Haiti and Haitian did not help their cause. They did not help to clean up the image of voodoo in the world. Nefarious organizations and individuals pounced on that opportunity to demonize it some more and reinforce every false stereotypical imagery. See what we told you? They are just savages. How can this be a religion? In his book, The Uses of Haiti, Paul Farmer, a long advocate for Haiti and its people, writes, and I quote, "Haiti may capture the headlines of the American popular press, but journalistic writing about Haiti distorts events and processes in predictable ways, helping to perpetuate a series of peculiarly potent myths about Haiti and Haitians. All of this together, distortions, half-truths, myths, and old and new, leaves even people of goodwill and discernment puzzled as to what is really happening in Haiti," end quote. This passage about Haiti itself might just as well have been about Voodoo. Is it so far-fetched to think that a religion that predates many current ones, a religion that sustained millions of slaves through a brutal and lengthy slave trade, has been the symbol of resistance and the catalyst of a successful rebellion, would be maligned by those who continue to see it as a threat centuries later? Voodoo is fairly regularly condemned by US Christian leaders. It is a frequent scapegoat for many of Haiti's problems. On his highly influential show, The 700 Club, Pat Robertson, this is 2010, declared, and I quote, "You know, something happened a long time ago in Haiti. They got together and swore a pact to the devil," end quote, 2010. This in response to the 2010 earthquake that devastated the land, its people, and its economy. With its close and integral participation, if not catalyst, of an imaginable event, the only successful slave revolt in the Caribbean that led to the independence of the first Black Republic. Haitian Vodou has encouraged many other nations to adopt the West African ancestral land religion. 60 million people today practice Vodou worldwide, in North, Central, and South America, all over the Caribbean, and of course in Africa, especially Benin, where it continues to be practiced openly. Though suppressed for a long time by the Catholic Church, especially, it is seeing a resurgence and attracting more and more scholars to study it. It is said that Haitians are roughly 55% Catholic, 45% Protestants, non-religious, or some other religions, but nearly 100% believe in Vodou. They may not practice it, but they believe in Vodou. If asked, a Vodou practitioner will tell you that he considers himself Christian. Vodou cannot be extricated from the subconscious of most Haitians. Vodou practitioners see the Catholic sense and the Vodoulois to be one and the same. The practice of using Catholic artifacts in Vodou ceremonies continues to this day. Since John Paul II, Rome began to relax its stance on Vodou. Pope Francis has acknowledged the existence and value of other religions, but not yet Vodou. In Haiti, Catholic services have begun to use traditional drumming and dancing in their church services. Something that was once considered taboo, using drums in a service. Call it keeping up with the slang with our time. They are evolving. We can call it that. I see it as evolution, as a survival, as a necessity. In Haiti, Vodou has existed for over 500 years, and even longer in the motherland. How much longer before it is truly recognized as a religion? Now that you have some of the information, I ask you again, is Vodou a cult or a religion? You have some of the information, you decide for yourself. I'm sure that you have a million questions. I know I still do. Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you for coming.